Well, it might be repetitive at this time of the week, of the week's presentation, but before starting, I also want to express my gratefulness for being here. Thank you very much to the fellowship, the institution, and all the people involved in the process, and of course, especially thanks to Jim and Sally that are great people and amazing guides in this process. I must admit that before my colleagues' presentations during the week, I wasn't going to tell that much about my personal story, but listening to them helped me understand better the field in where they work and their personal commitments to it. So I changed my mind and I altered it a little bit. Just following the title of our Friday session, I called my presentation Agitate, Educate, Organize. This is honoring a historical American labor poster and a book called After It, and that is to present myself referencing to the collective power of images, real ideas, and propaganda. I'm from Buenos Aires, Argentina, as Jim mentioned, and I was born there in 1975, and a couple of months later, my family received a call with a menace and had to leave the country in that same week. Argentina, as many other countries of the region, was at that time governed by a military dictatorship that neither encouraged nor accepted free thinking nor intellectuals. My father is a psychoanalyst, and that was one of the activities that were more persecuted at that time. We left to Venezuela, where we stayed until 1981, just 1 year before the restoration of democracy. I'm telling this part of the story to transmit something that is of high importance to understand certain South American idiosyncrasies. Idiosyncrasies, I don't know the pronunciation. In some of our countries, there still seems to be a name for a modern political modern. When I say modern, I mean the ideal of a unique and universal system that doesn't know very well how to deal with difference, complexity, and many of the obvious characteristics of the contemporary. At the same time, this history still seems to condition the way we deal with our continuous crisis. We argue a lot. We sing nostalgic tangos, I don't know if you have heard. We protest pacifically with a pan in one hand and a wooden spoon in the other. There are these cacerolazos that are very well-known kind of protests in Buenos Aires and all over territory. But we are kind of afraid of making changes as well as to embrace the possibility of empowerment. Those modes of protest generally don't lead to anything concrete. They are just like representation. This fear is subtle and almost unconscious but effective. The last administrations had used it to paralyze many actions. In our field, modern architecture and planning are also kind of omnipresent and find established status. They work as a barrier for further thinking, creation, transformation, and cultural networking. Going back to myself, I was trained as an architect, specialized in something called form and meaning, that was a very Colin Rowe's way of signifying just a theory. During my last couple of years of school and my specialization, I wandered through different study groups and classes related to other disciplines such as math, anthropology, philosophy, visual arts, cultural management, and of course psychoanalysis. Don't forget that Argentina is a country in which Woody Allen's movies have the ultimate audience. I also had a band, and besides my formal studies, I was playing and reading a lot about grunge and girl power movements. My guitar playing wasn't that good. I got the spirit though, but music was something that with the Buenos Aires underground scene were other aspects of my growth and understanding of a critical resistance in a way. 2001 was a very significant year. We had a terrible economic breakdown, and my generation, which had recently finished formal training, was expelled of the working sphere. Many went abroad searching for opportunities, and in a way it was another form of forced exile for a big group of people. Many others, as myself, decided to stay at that moment. That meant a lot of times staring at the phone waiting for something to happen and break it quietly. So no work, no goods, lots of dreams and information, and time to think, work, and write for free. So paradoxically, that was an important year for my personal choices. I committed a lot more with teaching, first design and history, and years later theory and criticism. I read a lot. I started collaborating periodically with the very well-known Argentinian journal at that moment, and I began to generate and cooperate in panel discussions, symposia, and different cultural activities. During the next years, I had to invent a professional model that didn't exist yet. There was no such thing as an architectural curator in Buenos Aires. Now we are two, and any other young voices of criticism. In the process of making my work more ideologically committed and understanding that I had to take a place and a role in my generation, I felt the need to make a difference and to canalize other voices and experiences to expand the conversation. Of course, that was possible because of the network that the exhibitions and articles helped organizing, and the pushy friends, or as I like to call them, intellectual accomplices, who were also devoted to find new places. There are some images of those experiences. I became almost obsessed with the necessity of a new media to disseminate and intellectually agitate my context and the Latin American discipline scenario. I constantly thought of a media to pose new themes and questions, to talk, to participate, generate, and host, to act as the vehicle of productivity, confrontation, and creation. At the end of 2009, I started some negotiations with my partners and investors, and after New Year, we founded Piedra, Papel y Tijera, that is the Spanish for rock, paper, scissors, as an independent publishing company devoted to architecture and design. In August 2010, we printed the first edition of Plot, which is the name of the magazine because of the Spanglish use of the term plotear, to plot, to print. We use it every day in our lives there. To propose, of course, to its other meanings regarding side narrative or complot. They are in a way hidden for a Spanish-speaking audience, and it's a nice way, it's also playful. My first editorial text made our position clear. We wanted to dissolve the modern dialectical apparatus that supported the oppositions between first and third world, low and high technology, vernacular and global, singular and replicable, or any other pair that wouldn't allow new readings of a different world. New constitutions for contemporary social beings, architectures, and cities. What is architecture today? Where does it reside? Which are the possible roles for the architect or urban planner in the contemporary city? Those are some of the preoccupations that constantly generate a variety of theses that we pursued and disseminate. We wanted the publication to look as a global one, to empower Latin American cultural production, combining it with examples all around the globe. We think we all can learn from each other, and different experiences can be translated, compared, and act as vehicles of transformation and transculturation. The cover was to be complex, to show more than one homogenizer discourse, to show people, drawings, photographs, and superpositions. We had to communicate our difference in a very direct and radical way. We divided the magazine in 3 sections, Revista, Práctica y Teoría. As literal as that, it's called Journal, Practice, Theory. The first one is meant to be read more quickly. It has shorter articles, and we feature a wide variety of themes there. Práctica, practice, is the main and biggest section. There we edit articles about offices developed in depth. We usually choose a group of projects and generate a rhythm that implies contemplation and analysis. We try to communicate as much details as we can for the reader to understand the project, giving her or him the means to make critical judgments. We often accompany that with an interview and/or an opinionated column. There, we also include historical buildings that were done in a moment where drawing and photography were not as available as nowadays. We believe in the presence of history and context. Among other formats, we also visit and feature some architecture school, trying to understand the pedagogical changes and needs. And we do some cities profiles, inviting a curator to choose between 5 or 6 emergent or interesting practices. Ecosistemas Urbano has been there in Madrid's profile. The last part of the magazine is devoted to theory. We publish papers, researches, drawings, and many other forms of thinking. We intend to organize reference texts and to be part of some university syllabus to collaborate in the disciplinary transformation. For us, the new is not good just because it's of being new. We don't run the novelty race, we leave that for the web. I firmly believe in critical editing, in the search for significance, and that smooth delusion space. There is sense in the combination or constellation that a printed issue conforms. It's there to stay in your library, for you to use, to mark, to remember, and even to argue with it. We complete our platform with other forms of social interactions and events. We are involved in education. We value conversation as a powerful way of interaction. We even do certain workshops with architects and students to evaluate if our intentions are being fulfilled or are still too shy. While directing a media, you construct an audience. You first try to reach the people, and then you interact, organizing a common ground, language, and proposals. A couple of days before coming, a friend that is an architect and a professor who I really respect told me one compliment that I really appreciated. He told me, "Plot is making architects read again." Having been able to take some time to think, there are some specific things that I want to accomplish while having the privilege of being here. I want to spend my year working in two apparently different but parallel lines of research. Criticism as a subject itself, looking for new platforms, new forms, and new ways to communicate and to think together. And Latin American's contemporary architecture. I feel that I need to achieve a more personal and profound work while I rehearse new formats and platforms. As Jim pointed me out the other day when we were talking, I make products with my thinking. And that form of active research is what I want to understand better and potentiate. I also want to learn from my fellows, to meet and talk to people, and get to leave the place with new accomplishments. Now I want to finish with some quick concepts that I organized a year ago for an editorial manifestos marathon. And it's not a lesson or a list of absolutes for everybody, it's just my intimate set of rules, but they are very personal. So yeah, here it goes. Bella crisis, it's beautiful crisis, because in South America, crisis is a constant state towards which we have to respond creatively. Desire, because crisis can be read in a subversive way also, as a tabula rasa, as a plane where that necessarily confronts you with desire and choice. Make it happen. If you can't trust institutions there or big discourses, get involved, design your own path. Do it yourself. Do it with others. Be open to change, because conversation involves the possibility to transform and to be transformed. Take responsibilities. Not everything is the same. Distinguish, study, differentiate, educate yourself. Question, suspect about establish, think critically. Tend to objectivity in a Tafuyan way, like a distance, taking distance of the current of time, edit seriously, think into history. And trust your subjectivity, be curious, cultivate your instincts, love what you do, and look for significance. Thank you.